Greetings, everybody. Hi, it's Elaine here for Positive Options, and I am bringing to you tonight something that I am calling the Life is Good bedtime story. It's something that I hope to do every week. I have a couple different stories that I'd like to share with you, and tonight I want to start telling the story of Denver Man. First, I want to show you, I'm in Milwaukee this week. Sorry about that. In Milwaukee this week, so I don't have my Life is Good mug. However, I was able to run down to the hotel lobby, grab a styrofoam cup, and make my own Life is Good cup. So I have my little Life is Good. Look, I even got to write it backwards so that you can see how it reads. Life is good. And because life is good, I would like to share stories with you about how good life can be. So tonight's story, I'm starting with Denver Man. Denver Man is someone who I wrote a post about back in the spring. It might have been in the winter. I wrote a post about Denver Man, but I really want to tell his story here because my goal is to tell positive stories, and Denver Man is actually the inspiration for not only this page, but for some of the things that have changed my life, and so I want to share his story with you. So if you've had a chance, grab yourself something to drink in a little Life is Good cup. Grab a cup of hot cocoa, join me as I tell you the story of Denver Man. So who is Denver Man? Denver Man is a homeless man that I met a couple years ago, and actually I'm getting kind of ahead of myself with that. Denver Man, I met him because my son moved to Colorado. He and my daughter-in-law moved to Denver, and so I had the chance to visit the kids and explore some of Denver. And on one of my very first trips to Denver, they took me to a place called the 16th Street Mall. If anybody's familiar with Denver, the 16th Street Mall is really like an icon in Denver. It's one of those kitschy little places. It's a street where there's no cars, it's just pedestrians, and you can get a ride by a guy on a bike who pulls a little cart behind, or a horse-drawn buggy. There are street musicians and street artists. There's a bus that'll take people from one end to the other. It's just a really cool little place with a lot of cool little shops. Really classic Denver is how I consider the 16th Street Mall. And on my first visit there, something else that is really kind of classic Denver, there were a lot of homeless people. It's just there's a large homeless population in Denver itself, and at that point in time, they were all over the 16th Street Mall. You couldn't go any place without seeing a homeless person. It was actually kind of sad and a little bit disturbing. So that's part one. Part two is that I was also reading a book. I don't know if anybody caught my last video. I introduced an author by the name of Pam Grout. The book that I was reading was Think and Grow Rich. The book that I was reading when I met Denver Man, I believe it was called E Squared. It might have been E Cubed, but regardless, what the author suggested was that it could be a ton of fun to hide money, just little bits of money, hide it in places around town where it would be a nice surprise for somebody to find. And I gave it a try, and it really truly was fun. You just put a little post-it on a $5 bill, hide it in a fitting room, put it on a grocery store shelf, any place. You won't see the person who finds it, but you'll just know that they have found this little secret money and a happy note that you've left them, and it was kind of cool to actually do that. I had a lot of fun with it. But I decided I was going to take it a step further. I thought next time I'm in Denver, I am going to go to the 16th Street Mall, and I'm going to give out $5 bills to all the homeless people. I mean, talk about a little ego trip. I kind of lost the point of the generosity there when I was thinking about what I would do to be generous. And hey, I see somebody's joining me live. Welcome. Hey, if you do get a chance to join me live, please absolutely throw a comment. I respond to all comments. I love to see what people have to say when I'm telling my stories. And if you want to go ahead and give me a thumbs up or hearts, you know I love those too. They're so much fun to see as they go across the screen. So back to Denver Man and the 16th Street Mall. So I'm going to go, I do get a chance to go to Denver, and I have a pocket full of $5 bills, and I'm going to hand them out as I walk down the street. It was a sunny afternoon, and there I was going to be generous lady. I mean, Yes, the ego trip, generous lady, that was going to be me. I walked to the 16th Street Mall because I had the afternoon to myself, and there is no one to be found. There is not a single homeless person. How could I be the generous lady if there's nobody there to take my money? And I was actually a little indignant, and I was a little disappointed that I couldn't do what I had set out to do. But one of those things I could do was stop in the local ice cream shop. There's a really cool ice cream store on the 16th Street Mall that I love, that the kids had introduced me to. So I walked into my ice cream shop, and I love their salted caramel ice cream, and I got myself a little dish of ice cream. And I sat down at the table. Excuse me, it still gets me a teeny bit emotional. I felt this shift. That's the only way I could describe it. I've talked about the shift before. I personally felt a shift. I realized that all I ever really wanted to do was help somebody. If I could just help one person, I would be happy for that day. And it was a really good feeling that it gave me to know that all I wanted to do was help someone. So I finished my ice cream, I threw my dish away, and I walked out of the ice cream shop, not expecting anything, but there he was, Denver Man. That's what I call him because I don't know anything else to call him but Denver Man. Denver Man was the cliche of a homeless person. There's no other way to describe it. Hi, Irene. How you doing? It's so good to see you. Thanks for joining me. He was leaning against the wall, and he actually had to step out from the wall a little bit to come into my path. He was wearing the dirtiest jeans I've ever seen, the kind that could stand up and walk away on their own. He was wearing a filthy army jacket. His hair was in dreadlocks. I mean, dreadlocks. They were awful. He was dirty, and he smelled. There was no other way to describe it. This was Denver Man who approached me. Anyway, Denver Man came up to me and said, do you have any spare change? And I remember saying something ridiculous. I mean, something silly, like, of course I have spare change, or, yes, I absolutely have spare change. And I reached into my pocket, and I picked out a $5 bill, and I handed him the $5 bill. Well, he stared at it, and then he started to cry. Sorry, it still makes me cry a little bit. He stood there looking at me with a $5 bill in his hand, with tears streaming down his face. And he tried to thank me, and he kind of tried to stammer out some thanks, and he couldn't find his words. And then he tried to give me a really big hug, and I have to be honest, I was a little freaked out by the hug, and I didn't really hug back. But by then he kind of composed himself, and he said, "Thank you so much. This really means so much to me, and you've made my day." And I remember saying something equally silly back, like, "I'm so glad I could help." I mean, I just didn't know really what to say. The whole interaction lasted about 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes at the most. But my life was changed forever. I mean, Denver Man needed a $5 bill, something that for us is a cup of coffee at a Starbucks, picking up something at McDonald's, walking into the dollar store and blowing $5 like we don't even think twice about it. And that meant so much to him. But his impact on me, with that small act of kindness, I am often reminded of the Mother Teresa saying, where she says that every day I see Jesus in all of his distressing disguises. That's how I felt when I saw Denver Man, because it made me realize just how important small acts of kindness are. If I had to pick the top 5 most influential people in my life, one of those people would be a homeless man that I knew for all of 60 seconds, because he reminded me how much we need to be kind to each other. I still think of him. I think of him often. I think of him almost every night. I wish that I could go back to the 16th Street Mall and find him and let him know and thank him for the things that he did for me. And so every night I kind of give him that virtual hug that I wasn't able to give him the day that I gave him the $5 bill. Anyway, I am convinced that our small acts of kindness can make a huge impact on the universe that we live in. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't even take a $5 bill. It just takes a small act of kindness, a kind word, anything that you can do for somebody that shows your kindness. And so I wanted to share the story of Denver Man with you because he really is my heart. He is what is behind this page. He's what's behind Positive Options. Who knows? Maybe someday it'll work out that I'll figure out who he is. I know that's almost an impossible thought. And so I just pray that every night God is watching over him and keeping him safe. And so what I hope you will do is share this story, share this page, share this message, but more than anything, I hope that you will share your own personal act of kindness. And I also hope that you'll join me next week when I have my Life is Good mug I should be back in Colorado next week, and I will share another story with you. And I love you guys so much. Have a great night. Get a great night's sleep, and I will talk to you again soon. Much love. Good night.